This movie, although fictional, is based on a real forest. I mean, shouldn't there be, like, patrol people, like forest rangers who are going around making sure everyone's staying on the path? Hey, welcome to Movie Reedviews. I'm Cody Reed. I'm going to review The Forest today. It stars Natalie Dormer, and I wasn't really high on my list, but I ended up seeing the movie, and even though it was before these other movies I was going to see, but I ended up seeing it. It came out a couple weeks ago, and it's based on a real forest, as I kind of mentioned in the beginning, that intro clip, that even though the movie itself, like the plot is fictional, it's based on a real forest in Japan where people go to commit suicide or at least think about it. And Natalie Dormer plays Sarah, who has a twin sister who lives in Japan, and then she learns that her twin sister actually went into this forest. So Sarah goes to Japan to try to find her sister and maybe talk her out of it, or, make sure that she's okay. Yeah, so she goes to rescue her sister, ignoring any kind of notions about the forest, because everyone there in Japan is kind of weary about this forest. They don't want to go inside. They don't want to stay even after dark to, stay overnight. And so she goes. She actually has the help of Aiden as well, who's a journalist, who's kind of a guide for her. Like, he helps guide her through the forest to try to help find her sister. This movie's a little more psychological than just straight up horror, like, ah! Even though there are some of those. There are some jump scares. A couple of times, it got me. It would just have something pop around, and it caught me a couple times, but most times it was just kind of dumb. But actually, the psychological stuff that happened in the movie, it was actually pretty well done most of the time. And that's the kind of stuff that I like in a horror movie. I'm not really a big fan of horror in general, but I like more of that stuff like mess with your mind and don't show it to me, rather than the filmmakers saying, be afraid of this, we're going to have something pop around and you need to be afraid of it. A lot of times horror movies can see like they're lazily put together, but this one was actually competently made. I mean, it had some good shots, and it had some decent acting from Natalie Dormer. I don't really know her that much from stuff, but I thought she did a good job in the role, especially playing the two different twins. And like I alluded to, there were parts where the horror and the scares could have been better, but it was interesting to see maybe like the dead in the background. Like you'd see maybe like a dead person kind of way in the background, or you see someone kind of just being hung over on the side, because they committed suicide. So that kind of stuff where it was just more subtle and around. There was a tent scene that was pretty cool. But the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie really kind of went far like the other side, like a departure for me, and I didn't really like the last 10-15 minutes. It was just a little too much like, be afraid of this, like I mentioned earlier. But overall, it was still good, at least more good than bad, because it was good showing how Natalie Dormer's character was going through all this stuff, and what it felt like, and being in this forest and what it symbolized. If you're on the fence about it, you might like it if you don't really care for the type of horror movies that are like slasher movies or demonic horror movies, things where it's just like, oh, demons, or like slashers, like people running after you with a knife. So if you like more of that kind of like psychological and subtle horror, this does has aspects of it, so I think you might like it. For me, 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't just slopped together, it was a little bit better than I thought. The director seemed to actually put some thought into making this movie, and it paid off a little bit more than the times that it didn't. There we go. My question to you is, what is your favorite psychological horror movie? Like I mentioned, this one kind of had aspects of that, so leave some comments down below, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I love to look at those comments. Make sure to like this video, and subscribing, you could actually get updates on my other reviews. Thanks so much for watching, and like I mentioned from the last video, my next ones might be for like Kung Fu Panda 3 or The Finest Hours, so look for those coming up. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.